Hi YouTube, welcome back to my channel. Before I start, let me wish you a happy St. Patrick's Day because on Saturday it will be St. Patrick's Day. I'm sorry I didn't have any St. Patrick's themed DIYs this year, but I couldn't really think of any. I did have a look on Pinterest and stuff. We don't really decorate for St. Patrick's, like pubs and stuff do. We don't really decorate in the house for St. Patrick's Day, but I will put my thinking cap on and maybe next year do a St. Patrick's DIY. So today's DIY is quite fun. I am using some lovely floral tiles and I'm doing a DIY tiled tray, but I'm kind of cheating a little bit because yes, I am using grout, but I'm also like using glue, so it's kind of like an easy DIY tiled tray. I am using the Klack IKEA tray. It was €5.25, so absolute bargain, and I am using that for the base of my project today. I did have a look around for other trays, but the IKEA one was the absolute cheapest one I could find, so I went with that one. You could have a look in a charity shop, or you might even have some old trays lying around and you could use them for this project as well. I'm also using some gorgeous floral tiles that I've had my eye on these tiles for ages, but I didn't know where I could kind of use them in the house. So I decided when I got the idea for doing a tiled tray, I was like, you know what, I'm going to use them floral tiles that I've had my eye on. The good thing about the tiles I use today is they are made in Ireland by a girl in Galway. I think it's Galway, hope I'm correct. I'm going to link below her website and her Instagram, and I bought them. They were €3.50 a tile, so a little bit pricey, but they are kind of handmade as well, so I was allowing for that, and they're absolutely fabulous as well. You don't have to use the tiles I used today. You might have some lying around your house, maybe from a project. I know there's gorgeous Laura Ashley tiles, and you can also get a tile cutter and cut up tiles as well, so you can do this much cheaper than what I did with the tiles I have. So what you will need for this project. So first of all, you're going to need a tray. So like I said earlier, I used the IKEA Klack tray. £5 bargain. They also had some other trays in IKEA that were slightly dearer, still really cheap though, and they'd be perfect for this DIY as well. You're going to need some paint, but that is optional. I decided to paint my tray because I wanted it to look really kind of cottagey and vintage, so I had some chalk paint and sealer from previous projects in my kit. I use Authentico ice cream. It's a little tester pot, and I done 2 coats on my tray. You're then going to need tiles for your project. Now, you can get cheaper tiles and buy a tile cutter. I saw a tile cutter in the DIY shop and it wasn't that expensive. Just be so careful. This is my first DIY where I was using tiles, so I don't want to use a tile cutter just yet. But do have a look for some DIYs and just be so careful if you do use the tile cutter. But that is an option. Tiles can come quite large, but if you like the pattern, there's no harm cutting it up to size. The tiles I used today were 10 centimeters by 10 centimeters, and I roughly added up how many I would need. So I measured the tray, measured the tiles, and left enough room for the gaps. So I worked out that I needed 15 tiles to fill my tray. So you're going to need a measuring tape, and you're going to have to measure out your tray and see how many tiles you're going to need. Then you're going to need a glue. I had some Gorilla Glue left over from a previous project. You might remember my china cabinet where I glued Queen Anne legs onto it. I had loads of glue left over, so I used some Gorilla Glue. That is a really strong glue. You can use other strong glue. You don't have to use Gorilla Glue. I just used it because it was in my kit. You're then going to need some grout. So I got some Unibond Quick Grout from Woody's. The tube it came in, it was like €6.50 or $6.90. It was definitely quite cheap. And I also got for about $2.50 or $2.99, I got this little blue grout finishing tool. I was going to use like an old gift card, plastic card, to smooth the grout, but I decided it was only €2.50, so I got the little grout tool. And then you're just going to need some clean cloths to use then to wipe away your grout off your tiles. So the first thing I did was I painted my tray, so I gave it 2 coats of Authentico chalk paint in the shade Ice Cream. I then lightly distressed it just around like the edges and the handles because I wanted it to look kind of a little bit cottagey. Once the paint was dry, I sealed the paint. Make sure when you use chalk paint you seal it, because this tray, you're going to serve food off it, you want it to be wipeable, you want to clean it. If you don't seal the chalk paint, it's going to lift right off. So make sure you seal it. I use lacquer, I had it left over in my kit. You can also use wax, but just make sure you buff your wax and you let it cure as well. So once I allowed my paint to dry, I then stuck the tiles on. Now, You're probably looking at my tray thinking, Dainty, some of your tiles are wonky. Yes, they are. And I'm like, I think it's gonna add to the handmade charm of it. But basically what happened to me was, so I use Gorilla Glue, and anybody who has used Gorilla Glue knows that it expands as it dries. So I glued my tiles down and I evenly spaced them out. However, when it was drying, the tiles shifted because the glue expanded. So I was like, oh crap. But they were already set by the time I realised that they had dried wonky. So I was like, do you know what, I'll leave it. It will just add to the charm. So the best tip I can give you for doing these tile trays is take your time, and I done them in the evening after work. So like one day I painted it, the next day I applied the tiles, and then the last day I applied the grout, and then I let the whole thing kind of set. So once my tiles were glued on, I then applied the grout. So I wanted it to look like I had tiled them on, so I kind of cheated a bit by gluing them, and then I applied the grout. This was my first time to ever use grout, and it was messy. It was also fun though, but it was I found it a little bit hard smoothing out the grout. I had looked at some YouTube videos on how to like grout and stuff. I will have a blog post and I will have instructions on how I achieved the look and more photos of my tile tray, and I'll link below a really good blog post that kind of helped me learn to put the grout on, if that makes sense. So starting in one corner, I applied the grout to all of the gaps. I would then smooth it using my little grout tool, and then I would wipe away any excess. So I just took my time and I went section by section, tile by tile. I'm sure the more practice you do, the quicker, or if you've ever tiled a wall, you would find this tray so easy to do, but it was my first time to attempt tiling. Now, if you don't want to grout, you could skip this step, and just when you're gluing your tiles, glue them tightly together. You may have more space though on your tray, you may have to use extra tiles, but you could do this without grouting, but just glue your tiles really tightly together. So once the whole thing is dry, it is yours to style. So I have mine on my kitchen table because I wanted it as like a centerpiece. My kitchen table can look a bit bare, and I do have flowers sitting on it, but I just thought the tray would be nice to have in the center of my kitchen table. I will also use it if people are over and if like you're serving food, especially like during summer. It'd be so nice to kind of bring out and sit on a table. It'd be really handy for like hosting, and I just think it's really cute as well. I'll make sure to insert a few clips now of my finished tray. So that is my tiled tray. I hope you guys liked it. And I know it's not perfect, my tiles are a little bit wonky, but like I said, it adds to the handmade charm. Do let me know if you have a try at making this tray, or if you have any little tips that you can share below. Do share your advice and tips, tile tips, down in the comments below. If you are new to my channel, please hit that subscribe button for more videos. If you enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up, and I will see you all in next week's video. Bye everyone!